Hi, welcome back to Deep Images. We're continuing our amazing series on samurai cinema, and I've got with me C.F. Roberts, my incredible co-host, the wonderful Justin Cotton, also a co-host live from Australia, and the incredible Bill Mulligan, who, like me, is stuck in North Carolina. No, and to start off our talk about samurai films, we did an intro in the last one. I can sum up really fast. It's just basically uh historical movies where with a lot of swordplay. It's just take place within the culture of Japan and anywhere from like the 13th, 14th up to even up to like the 1910s. From the whole shogunate to the empire before the empire, got rotten. And so we'll get on to the details as they apply to each movie. I do want to say something I did not say last time that just isn't a factoid is that these movies are called Chanbara, but a lot of Westerners, including myself, first heard them as Chambara, which was a mispronunciation, but so it became kind of accepted, and now it's kind of become rehabilitated. It's kind of become finally corrected. Like it took me a while to start going back to Chanbara. Um, but they're a subgenre of Jida which are historical dramas. That's really their. And if you want to get really technical about Japanese words, the Jida Iga, or maybe Ika takes care of that part, but Iga means film. So a Chanbar Iga would be the whole proper whatever, just like giant monsters or kaiju Iga. So giant monster films. So we're gonna cover some more sword wielding dudes, and I think Mr. Civ Roberts has one for us.
Oh yeah, yeah, big one. Okay, but last time out we covered Harakiri, and we're gonna go from the sublime to the ridiculous. Well, I don't know if I'd necessarily say ridiculous, but we are going to a cross between the Chambara Iga and the Kaiju Iga. We're talking a Kaiju samurai here, and this is Daimajin. And this is an interesting flick. It's actually a trilogy of movies, all of which were made in 1966. And, were kind of released, I guess, consecutively. But they were all put out by Daiei, which was one of Toho's big competitors. Toho put out the Godzilla movies, and Daiei put out the Gamera movies. And
It's hard if you love them both.
yeah, it's hard if you love them both.
And it's heartbreaking that they'll never have a crossover because of that. It makes me sad.
Yeah, a lot of people are still shipping these two after all these years.
Yeah.
But but in the wake of all that, they were trying to come up with some new material, and so they created this Daimajin character, or this monster samurai, and they put out these three movies, all of which were directed by. They were written by. Let me see. I actually got my notes down here somewhere of a sort.
I don't own them anymore. I've kind of forgotten. I know who directs them, but not who wrote them.
Screenplay was Tetsuro Yoshida. Looks like,
Okay.
although, and probably a similar producer. Although they all three of them had different directors.
Who directed the
Now,
first one? Is it,
the
well,
very first one is Kimiyoshi Yasuda.
okay. Doesn't Kenji Misumi direct one of them?
At
Yeah,
least
he
one.
he does the second
Yeah,
one.
he was the man. Like he directed a lot
He's
of
the
the Werewolf
best.
and Cub and Crimson Bad and
He did
Sleepy
some
Eyes Dead.
Zatoichi too.
Zatu. Oh yeah, a lot. He did the first one. Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
Great visualist.
Hmm.
But this one, they all kind of run along different paths and different storylines. But the first one kind of takes place, yeah, well, they all kind of take place in feudal Japan. Pretty much right going into, I guess, the latter days, I guess, because all these movies feature devices like muskets and
Hmm.
gunpowder and things like that. But first one centers around a village which is kind of looked over by Lord Hanabasa is the initial ruler in this, and he's kind of the feudal lord, and they have these rituals to kind of keep the Daimajin at bay because
So what is the Daimajin?
he is, I guess, the spirit of rage and anger, and it's kind of an evil spirit that lives in the mountain. And he was supposedly just contained by God, or the God or whatever at one point or another, and suppressed by this big samurai statue that's carved within the mountain.
Hmm.
And they have a priestess who is the priestess over that spirit and over the mountain, and she conducts these rituals outside the castle gate. And Lord Hanabasa kind of encourages this, and allows this to go on because it helps keep the village at peace and helps kind of maintain an order, I suppose. That seems to keep the villagers happy and whatnot.
That's
And
important.
so as it goes on, as this speech, there are these thunder cracks in the mountains, and big booming sounds and whatever, and all the little kids in the village are scared. It's like, is that the Daimajin? Is that the Daimajin? And they'll say, no, don't worry. The priestess is out there conducting her rituals, and they're all doing their dance, and they're doing the little production number outside the village. And as this is happening, a kind of a member of the Hanabasa clans uh, servants, or one of the samurai that are under him, who is his name is Samanasuki, and he pulls a coup. He pulls a coup and very violently overthrows the lord and kills the entire family and much of the samurai within, who were loyal to him. And he's got his own little army, and they run in and wipe them all out. And the lone survivors are a samurai named Kogenta, and he rescues the group's young son and daughter, or the Lord's young son and daughter. And so, the son, I guess, would be the heir apparent to the throne. His name is Tadafumi. The daughter's name is Kozasa, and they are pretty much, I guess, the heirs apparent to the throne, or I guess he is the
Hmm.
son. And he escapes with them, and as this Samanasuki takes over the kingdom, or the village, he outlaws the he outlaws the rituals of the Daimajin rituals. It says,
Oh,
we don't have any needs for your stupid
not too smart.
your silly gods and your spirits and your demons and whatever, and you can take it on the arches with those. And so um, the priestess Shinobu and Kojenta the samurai take the children up to the mountains where the Daimajin statue is. As hell breaks loose all around me. We got the fire engines out this window. We got the dog out here, and
I actually
upon
have Sword of Doom on full blast in the other room, and it's what a violent scene right now. So there's lots of shrieking, setting the mood for the show.
Yeah, the chaos elements are running rampant here.
Hell yeah.
But
We're focused chaos.
yes, yes, controlled chaos, semi-controlled chaos. Anyway, so they live for about 10 years up in this mountain, basically in the temple of the Daimajin or the whatever. It's basically you have a nice view. You look out the window of the temple, you have a nice view of the statue and the waterfall running over the statue. Excuse me. And
Okay. I hope you're going to make it.
that is the goal. That is the goal. That's always the goal.
Good to know.
But eventually, the two kids grow into adulthood, and uh, the new lord, the bad guy, basically is this terrible human being, and he's very totalitarian, and he's basically working the villagers into the ground and hunting down and trying to kill off all the samurai who ever belonged to the previous lord. But he keeps sending these parties out. And it's like, yeah, yeah, I know that kid who should be uh, the previous lord's heir apparent is out there somewhere. Be sure you hunt him down and kill him if you can. Meanwhile, the priestess and the samurai are keeping them safe. At one point, I think the samurai goes into the village because he hears that there are people down there being abused, and so he's going in and trying to find a way in and trying to like save people, I guess. And
I can't remember that part.
yeah, they capture him. Yeah, it doesn't work out, and they capture him, and they hang him up. They hang him up by his feet over the city in kind of a little gallows or whatever. He's just kind of hanging there upside down, and a little kid from the village goes running up to the village, running up to the mountain, and he wants to pray to the god, of the mountain to come down and stop this guy who's been the tyrannical leader
Mm-hmm.
for like his entire lifetime. And the kid runs into the priestess, and she says, "Yeah, this mountain is haunted. Go back down. You know, I'll say prayers for you." And so he doesn't. He kind of lingers and he goes back, and he tells the daughter who's up there, they've got the samurai up there, and the son overhears that, and he goes running down to save him. And the daughter, I think, starts praying to the samurai. The Meanwhile, the priestess runs down and tries to, I don't want to say necessarily bargain with him, but going to the Lord and basically saying, all right, listen, you got to repent. The God will punish you
Mm-hmm.
if you keep doing what you're doing to the people of this village. And he's an arrogant bastard who doesn't believe any of her mumbo jumbo, and so he
Oh, of course not.
cuts her down and kills her. Uh, the young prince, I guess prince, I don't know, feudal lord, should be feudal lord, runs down and tries to break the samurai out. He gets caught, and so he and the samurai kind of get thrown into the joint, and they get told, "All right, you're going to die in the morning. We're going to execute you tomorrow morning," just as an example to anyone who might want to like start up a rebellion or whatever. The daughter, meanwhile, has this little kid, semi-feral kid from the village up there, and the two of them are praying to the god of the mountain, come down and save us. And meanwhile, the Lord decides, okay, well, we're gonna have enough of this funny stuff here. Let's go destroy that statue. So he sends a whole cadre of his men up into the mountain to wipe out, to destroy the statue. And they get as far as like, trying to break it with hammers. It's not working. Eventually, they just hammer this big spike right into its forehead.
Mm,
And to their shock and surprise, the statue bleeds.
mm.
And so they're like, oh, let's get out of here. This is kind of giving me the willies. Suddenly, the ground shakes and splits open and swallows them. Big avalanche. They all kind of get swallowed into this cracked ground with this big green glow, and they all get devoured by the earth. And so it's the sign, first of all, that the Daimajin is waking up and is going to start, wreaking some havoc. And so the girl has pretty much become the proxy to the priestess here, the daughter, and she runs to the statue and is praying to him and saying, "What does it take? I'll sacrifice myself." And she cries and she cries a tear, and this turns out to be very much the Daimajin's big activator is the the character, leading the prayer cries a tear, the tear falls, that sets him up.
The
And
tear of the oppressed.
yeah, and so the statue grows a big ugly face. It looks like a very grim samurai Popeye or something. And it gets out of the mountain and stomps down there and basically wreaks havoc. And
It does a lot of stomping.
yeah, does a lot of stomping, does a lot of village destroying, saves the good guys, wipes out everybody else. These
Mm.
people are, these samurais have their muskets. The bad guys have all got muskets. They run up
Cowards.
to Yeah, and they run up to the front level of the towers and they're firing their muskets. And it's kind of like, okay, so for the past several minutes, these muskets have done you no good. Getting up to a higher level and shooting again is not going to do you any better. And so
Right.
they all die. And basically, he takes that railroad spike, that the big bolt that they put through his forehead, pulls it out, and impales the bad guy, the leader, the feudal lord, onto this platform or this just wrecked piece of stone, and just nails him there and kills him, and then turns around and looks at the villagers. And the girl is down here by this point praying to him, saying, thank you for saving us. Thank you for setting us free. Please don't be angry. Please don't hurt these people anymore. And it basically, he basically waves a hand over his own face, and his face turns back into a stone plate, and then he crumbles and
Hmm.
turns to rubble. And that is very abruptly the end. And pretty good flick. I mean, realistically, the story is real good. You know, the effects are pretty good. Um, the whole trope of the samurai rage god is pretty good. And
Well, it's
at
kind of
least
like, go ahead.
at least this time out, it turns out pretty well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. He visits his wrath on the right people, the evil.
yeah, yeah, and just well earned, destruction.
It's one of those ones
And
you know it's coming, but
yeah, it's coming. You can't wait for it to come, and then you're glad to see him go. And so I enjoyed this one a lot. I remember watching it as a youngin
oh wow,
numerous times. And it just I think it was called Majin Monster of Terror, the American International Pictures edition.
yeah. Sometimes it's
And
called Giant Majin.
Yeah, and so we saw that. We saw that on television on UHF TV when I was a kid,
Oh wow.
and it was one where my mom actually sat down and really liked it. She really liked the samurai movies. She and I
Oh wow.
watched Seven Samurai together,
Damn.
and she liked that quite a bit. Just by no means a masterpiece, but a pretty good kaiju movie, and not a
Yeah,
bad samurai
it
flick.
was hard. It was hard to get hold of when you started collecting videos. In the
Hmm.
period I did, it was renowned. But then that one company, I think it was that company like Rubber Monster or Rubber Suit or whatever, who were gonna do a whole bunch of kaiju things, and they ended up running out of money. But they did a three DVD in one set,
Oh
and
wow.
the fastener was a little, it could have been made better. When I started selling my DVDs, I accidentally cracked the side of it, and this person was buying it for their son, who was fairly young and who liked those kind of movies, never seen it. And I said, "Let me send you these pictures. I mean, I'll give you a discount." And he's like, "I'm like this. I don't know if this case is going to work." He's like, "Just wrap up the broken case and wrap the discs each one and send the whole thing to me. It's okay." I was like, okay. And then I thought, well, does he want a partial discount? And he's like, no. And he writes me back and says how much his son is digging on the giant Meijin. So I felt good.
Yeah, that works.
I don't
Yeah.
know if they're on, if they're not on Blu-ray, I'm sure somebody like Discotech Media will snap them up. But, um, I mean, you guys seen this besides, us?
Oh yeah,
No.
I love the Majin movies. Although, I mean, there's three of them, and they're all basically the same movie.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the
that's
one problem is they weren't able to. There was talk even about Godzilla versus Majin. I don't know what
Hmm.
that would be like, even.
Godzilla would
Uh,
kick his ass.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Until Meijin took out that sword. I don't know, he might cut his tail off.
yeah.
Mhm.
Getting ahead of myself.
It
But it's
would be
he's a
a
cool character, and it's cool watching this giant kaiju-esque creature totally doing justice against these jerks.
yeah.
Misumi's
But it's the
looks
And
the
same
it
movie,
best of
seems
the
to be
three.
it seems to be the same kind of character in all the movies, as
right?
far as I can tell.
Yeah. Well, glad of the kaijus are, you know, awoken, and I mean not in the beginning, but they end up being the champions of the besieged or the
You
downtrodden.
could argue that it doesn't bother me that every Godzilla movie is basically the same. We just rate them in terms of how cool the monster that he's fighting is. And, okay, you can make that
Yeah.
argument. Uh,
Very
but they're
cool.
fun. They're fun movies.
They
Yeah.
are. They are. I'll have to
I
revisit.
thought the special effects was really good, even though it was a black and white version I saw for the 2023 Godzilla.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh
Really, the
yeah,
monster was quite scary actually. It was, I know it wasn't supposed to be a horror film, but the way that the special effects were so good, it was really quite scary
It kind
when
Yeah.
of
it was
is
on
supposed to
screen.
be a horror
Yeah,
film from what I've read of the director's talking.
yeah, actually, yeah, it is. It's down if in the fine print as a horror genre. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
the
noticed that.
director
Yeah.
said that they had hardly any money, and somebody said, "How the hell did you do all this stuff with even the CGI and the practical?" And he said, "We just worked really hard." He said, "We're not like Hollywood. We don't like just waste like millions of dollars on
Yeah.
nothing."
Yeah.
It does help when the special effects person is the director.
Yeah,
That doesn't always
Yeah.
create a great movie because one thing I've noticed is that if a special effects person directs a film, there tends to be too much because
yeah,
they've had the experience of spending all this time and effort and making an effect, and then the editor and the director just cut it down to the bone. But I think you got to
Mhm.
realize effects often overstay their welcome if you don't make them brief. If it does what it's supposed to do, don't make it a second longer than it has to be. But this
Yeah.
guy did a fantastic job. There's really not a lot of Godzilla in this movie, to tell you the truth. His
No.
and that's the way it should be, because after a while, it's just watching a big lizard knock down buildings. A little goes a long way, and the fact that they spent more time making the characters interesting. And I think with the
Yeah.
Majin movies, that's true too. I actually do genuinely care about these people, these poor
Yeah.
oppressed people.
Yeah. You care about the people. You care about situations that they're in.
hmm very
So yeah, I
cool.
enjoy these quite a bit.
All right.
Review for Godzilla could be summed up as giant lizard knocks down building. That's
Yeah,
great.
that's the surface level. Uh,
Yeah.
that's what we liked when we were little kids, right?
Hmm.
Except I didn't see a lot of Godzilla movies for a while. I did see Ultraman, and then I started seeing the Godzillas, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I always felt sorry for the monsters Ultraman killed because
Yeah.
I thought, why is
Yeah.
he killing these poor monsters?
Ultraman's a dick.
Yeah.
In
He
some
really is.
incarnations, yes, yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of like you just look at it and say, oh, okay, a cab.
I
Yeah.
mean, later incarnations they start kind of addressing, and making the monsters' motivations a little more, gray and stuff. But
Yeah.
the classic '60s one, I mean, it looks beautiful, sounds beautiful, but yeah, it's a little monster. What's the word for racism against monsters?
Monsters.
Well,
Monstrophobic.
Monsterphobia. Monsterphobia.
Yeah.
yeah.
There we go.
Probably of all the kinds of racism, it's probably the one that has the most justification, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
you don't,
And
yeah, and you don't know.
if you're in a
Well, the word
building and a
monster makes
monster
you
comes
scared.
through, you're
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
Yeah. I lost 10 family members to that asshole.
Yeah,
yeah.
really.
Mm.
So, this time around, I'm gonna do one, and I'm gonna kind of push it in another more eclectic direction. I have a heavy one to talk about, but I think I'm gonna talk about that in another episode. So I'm gonna go into the lighter one, relatively speaking, lighter one. Um, tonally lighter one, but more graphic. So this one is called Sex and Fury from 1973, directed by Norifumi Suzuki. And the real name in Japanese is Furio Anegodin Inoshika Ocho, also known as Legend of the Delinquent Female Boss Ocho Inoshika. So Ocho Inoshika is our main character, played by the gorgeous Reiko Ike. Reiko Ike, this was one of her famous roles, but she really got big in the whole genre of girl boss um, films. Now, when you hear people nowadays say call somebody a girl boss like they did about a certain person in the media, that's started in Japan. That was a Japanese term in the early 70s that got kind of co-opted over the decades. So there was like girl boss, girl boss gorilla, girl boss revenge. Um, she's been in a lot of them. I'll go ahead and read them real quick because I love the titles. I'm not going to read all of them, but I've actually seen all of them. But yeah, they're hard to track down. But they're kind of formulaic, but they're fun. They were part of I guess you'd call a subgenre called Pinky Roman or Pinku Iga, which are like sexy movies. Um, but the girl gang genre itself also kind of was a genre of its own. I can't remember what the Japanese name that subgenre was, but so a lot of these movies are kind of a combination of the two, like a lot of action. Most of the ones Rico was in were a little more action than sex, but she was in this couple of series: Girl Boss Blues, Queen Bee Counterattack. Second one was called Queen Bee Challenge, which I own. Girl Boss Gorilla 1972 and Girl Boss Revenge. I have both of those two. Terrifying Girls High School Violent Classroom. I have seen Terrifying Girls Lynch Law Classroom. I have a copy of. And one of those two is just come out on Discotheque Media. If you guys haven't heard of Discotheque Media, they are the greatest company right now outside of like art house companies like Criterion that are doing like the classic Japanese stuff. They're doing a ton of genre Japanese stuff, and they're doing it across the board. They're doing these kind of movies. They're doing like Devilman cartoons. A ton of anime, a ton of classic anime, and hard to find anime. And just a whole treasure trove of film. They're doing a lot of the tokusatsu series. I've already gotten Kamen Riders. I never thought I would upgrade Kamen Rider Black and Black RX to Blu-ray. Never thought it would happen. Now I can sell my DVDs. But Discotheque is just, they're a little pricey, so you have to kind of, I had to wait till a little on sale to buy Sex and Fury. Um, but they have the Terrifying Girls School series. Reiko was also in some of the Battles Without Honor Humanity series by Fukasaku, but she worked a lot with this director Norifumi Suzuki. He directed quite a few of the movies I just named, and he was kind of like Teruo Ishii, and Yasuhiro Hasabi. They were kind of sleaze directors, sleaze merchants, Japanese equivalent of exploitation directors. Um, and this was kind of their field, I mean, this field was wide open in America in the same time period. Um, but being Japanese, there's a certain flair and a certain craftsmanship, a certain style, and just, I mean, to be frank, just a certain coolness to these movies that really reverberate. One of our former panelists covered one of the Stray Cat Rock series on this channel a few months ago. A great series of the girl boss genre. So this one is not a girl boss film, even though it's done by these girl boss experts. So Sex and Fury is a kind of hybrid between a samurai film and a yakuza film, with a bit of the pinky Roman sex stuff. So it's a bit schizophrenic, but it's well made. It moves. It's not dull. Reiko Ike is striking and very charismatic. So I'm going to tell you the origin of the character real quick, and I want to know if have any of you guys seen this movie here?
No.
Okay, well, y'all are probably, at least one or two of you, going to recognize this plot. Uh, that's another reason I wanted to cover it. Um, so this little girl named Kyoko Kasai, she's just wandering along the streets in 1886 Japan, and her father is a police detective, and her ball goes, she bounces a ball, it goes flying off. She goes to get it. Well, she no sooner turns her back than these three people murder her father. They have it in for him because he's on their tail. And when she finds him, he's clutching all these. I want to make sure I pronounce this right. Hafunada, which are playing cards. I recently did a review of a Pale Flower by Shinoda. I did that with Rhiannon Clark as a co-host for the crime film series, and they play the Funada or whatever. I get it wrong a lot, but they play those cards. They're kind of like rectangle. They're kind of like vertical. Like TikTok size, and they're very thin, and they have like certain symbols. They're just a very really cool exotic variant on playing cards, and so, every Yakuza movie, every crime movie, everybody's got the gambling thing. I mean, there's whole subgenres of gambling Yakuza movies. But these three particular ones that were apparently put in his hand, his bloody hand, were of three creatures. I want to make sure I pronounce them right because they're the Japanese name, and that's actually important. It was three different creatures. One depicts an Aino, which is a bear. One depicts a Sika, which is a deer. One depicts as an Ocho, which is a butterfly. So fast forward to 1905, and Kyoko Kasai no longer exists. She's been reborn as Ocho Inoshika, or, in the order Japanese do the names, Inoshika Ocho. I just call her Ocho Inoshika. So basically, that's crammed those three words together. And she has a tattoo, a Yakuza-like tattoo, across here, and onto her back, that is all three of the creatures combined. And of course, she combines, I mean, she covers them a lot with, the kimonos and stuff. So, of course, her quest is to find these three criminals who left these three calling cards and utterly destroy them. So, remind you of a movie that's really famous, Japanese samurai movie? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Lady
Oh yeah.
Snowblood.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Which has been covered on this channel. Or we would definitely be doing it. Yeah, this movie is like it's not. I don't want to say it's a parody, but it's definitely a super hard riff on Lady Snowblood. But it's like a bit less artful, a lot sexier, gory. I don't know. They're kind of neck on neck for that. But it's set in a later time period, 1905, and it for some reason it being the 70s, but maybe because they just did all these girl boss movies set in the then present. The soundtrack has a lot of really funky music, soulful music, a lot of the brassy kind of stuff, a lot of the stuff that sounds like the what they call the beat music in Italian soundtrack movies, which is basically just a hodgepodge of rock, psychedelia, um, and jazz and a whole bunch of other things, just kind of lounge, just kind of all stirred together. It's why the soundtracks are so indelible. So this is kind of like that. It has these upbeat, crazy, some of it almost is so brassy and upbeat, almost sounds like some kind of elevator music and maybe in hell. And so our nice Ocho, she just basically she works a variety of jobs. She's an orphan, so she just basically lived on the streets. She became a pickpocket, like Modesty Blaze. This was before Storm, so I wasn't gonna compare her to Storm for a famous pickpocket child thief, but she she's a pickpocket thief. She's a master martial artist. She's master at firearms. She's a master swordswoman. She's a master gambler. She has all these wonderful skills that she can either make money at straight out like gambling or steal like a thief or whatever. So she's not a prostitute. That's the only one. So props to her. So she is truly a supernaturally good pickpocket to where it becomes a running kind of joke in the movie where she just some of the people you think that are so going to be such badass villains who have guns and you think they're going to reach for them and Ocho's just like, are you looking for this? It's like, so it's like sleight of hand kind of stuff. um the plot becomes a little complicated. There's a character named Shanuska, and he is a anarchist, and he is trying to. Well, the implication, is an anarchist, so he's against the Meiji uh, Empire as it was then, as it was waning. But really, he's against the Yakuza, a group of Yakuza, and it's slightly implied that, well, the government and the Yakuza might be kind of, involved with each other. Um, and he tries to assassinate this new Yakuza leader. And so everybody's trying to kill him. Um, so then we find out there's these small cadre of British secret agents who also want to kill him, um, which really is weird because they basically are trying to wipe this syndicate out because they want to jump in. They're using spies to infiltrate, but they're trying to jump in, and their goal is to destabilize the government and to create a second opium war and to, as they put it, enslave these savage people. And British colonialism at its finest and most unabashedly ugly. And the guy's got a long mustache. He doesn't twist it and twirl it, but he might as well. And they don't even list the actor's name. Stuff I can find. He's not very good, but he does speak English. His main agent is just simply named Christina. Uh, Christina is played by Christina Lindbergh. So, he's a
Ah,
classic sex symbol and action icon as well. And I wrote
Yeah.
down a little bit of her amazing, resume. It's very small, but just to refresh anybody. So, she still occasionally shows up at conventions and gets in touch with fans. She made a few movies. She's Swedish. When she was like 17 or 18, Made in Sweden, Young Playthings, which was by Joe Sarno. Uh, and then she made Sex and Fury. Right after she made that, she made Anita, which became a gigantic erotic movie hit in Scandinavia. And then the next year, she did Thriller on Grim Film or Thriller Cruel Picture, or they call her One Eye, and she became immortal.
yeah.
It's one of the most iconic characters in exploitation film history. And she's always attractive. She's always engaging. She's in this movie, she's kind of not to the extent as in Thriller, but she's kind of victimized and taken advantage of. Like the her British boss, the scumbag, he like rapes her when he finds out that she's in love with the Japanese anarchists. And I was like, he couldn't just punish her. He's like, I'm going to punish you because of the bureau, and then he rapes her. And it's like, okay, is this standard punishment that they utilize? And
HR.
turns out she became a secret agent with using her looks to kind of get in there, and then they use her for her looks, to seduce people in the Japanese hierarchy, kind of similar to the way they used Asia Argento in Nero's Hotel, but um, she joined them solely to get to Japan to find Shanuska the anarchist. It turns out they were lovers in America, and he impregnated her, but he didn't know she was pregnant. They broke up because he came back to Japan to do his, political radicalism, and she gave birth to a child, and it was adopted. So, there's this whole kind of melodramatic thing going on. She says most all her lines in English, and the people who interact with her, mainly Shanuska, also speak in English. So, he's having a little trouble with it, but he's okay.
Just a
The thing is, that's not her native language either. So, her speaking lines in English and her boyfriend speaking lines in Japanese, they really both sound kind of awkward, equally awkward. So it's fine. Um, what does this have to do with our main character? Well, she somehow gets embroiled in all this and thinks that she senses that Christina is like a double agent who wants to help Shanuska, which she is. But in order to keep the facade going to the bitter end, she has to become culpable in capturing Ocho, and of course, torturing her, mostly naked, strapped to this giant cross-like thing. And the outfit Christina has while she's torturing her is just incredible. It's not even that revealing, but it's just this amazing kind of. It's kind of this gold kind of. Looks like something Raquel Welch would wear in that period, but so then it gets really psychedelic, and Reiko Iki's good at these kind of like, just like Mako Kaji, Lady Snowball. She's good at these kind of like, surviving, blood spatter on her face, her hair's messed up, she's still like stunningly beautiful and just filled with rage. And so she escapes, and Christina runs away to find Shanuska, but they're gonna track them down. Uh, Meanwhile, the kind of A plot has been kind of going along, interrupted by this periodically. She has Ocho has managed to find the first. She finds the deer. She manages to get in with this woman who works in a brothel. She hangs around with brothels, even though she's not a sex worker herself, but because a lot of the gambling denizens go to the brothel, and so she gets this girl to kind of finagle her way into this guy, and she's kind of got a bad feeling. He's a really sleazy, sadistic yakuza boss, and so a really torrid and really annoying sex scene ensues. But it does service the plot in that when you get the upper view of him atop her, you see the full thing that he's got the entire deer tattoo on his back, and it looks kind of ridiculous. It's not quite the most threatening yakuza tattoo. And once she knows that, he's finished. uh I mean, really finished. So cross him off their list. So then the next guy, she finds him, and he's got the bear on him, and he gives her a hard time, and he's got an assistant who's a woman, and this woman's just kind of been around in the background helping him through the movie. You don't really know much about her. So as they've got Ocho captured yet again, um, this woman approaches her while the dude's gone, and she's like, "Your real name is Kyoko Kasai." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "I'm your mother. I betrayed your father all those years. I was sleeping with the Yakuza guys." And so the dude comes back and he says, "Don't listen to this bitch. She was in on it all the way. She was sleeping with us way before the murder, you know." And so, to her credit, Ocho doesn't do the thing you think what she would do. She's like, she doesn't forgive her. She's like, "You're not my mother. Get the hell away from me." And when she knocks her down, her kimono rips, and she has the butterfly tattoo on her. So she gets it too. So the thing is, her vengeance is not completely complete, because there's a layer to this, because apparently there was one other person involved. And they just leave that kind of dangling. Probably they just, and if the movie didn't wasn't a hit, they weren't going to pick it up. But they do pick it up. There is a sequel. And the movie ends mainly, well, the movie ends in two ways disastrously. one is the British people gunned down our two lovers. So goodbye, Christina Lindbergh. And they're on a train track and there's snow, and when they die, it's extremely like dramatic, slow motion and wild camera. This whole movie is like super psychedelic. And then they get to the part where Ocho's just pissed off all the wrong people by killing these dudes he got revenge on. And she's cornered by a whole lot of men with swords, a whole lot of yakuzas who, kind of look like samurai in suits. And a lot of them. And one of the things that happens is her kimono gets not ripped exactly, but through the hubbub, falls down this way. So the iconic shots of her from the movie, she's got one bare breast, and she's got the butterfly and the other things going around her. And so it has a double meaning. One, we need to show her boobs, but two, we want to show you this. They know who she is now. She's this badass. So she just manages to kill all of them, but they shoot her twice. They cut her 6 or 7 times, and she wanders in the snow. She has a harder time of it than Lady Snowblood, I have to say. We didn't have an easy time of it. And the snow thing is, prevalent in these Japanese movies, and the music's really cool and it's really pretty. And she just keeps falling down, getting up. There's blood everywhere, and then it's like the walk of death. But she's standing when the camera, when the curtain closes. So it could go either way. So probably most people thought, okay, she's dead, but she got all the bad guys. Well, apparently the movie made a lot of money, so no, she's not dead, and she's got one more bad guy to get. So in a later time, we'll talk about the incredible sequel, which I think is better. Um, I think it's better overall as far as more action and less sex, pointless sex. But it doesn't have the novelty of the Christina Lindbergh and the spy thing and the Shanuska the anarchist. Just that whole pivot of all these characters is very interesting. And it was interesting seeing the beginning scene where it's not nearly as well staged or as involved as Lady Snowblood's origin, but it's like a very stripped down version, but it's fantastic. So anyway, anybody seen it?
No.
Anybody want to see it?
Sounds cool though.
Probably after that, not at all. Uh,
After that, absolutely.
I'm definitely going to find some great posters to put on the thumbnails and in the videos, but I've got to be careful because you got to get them at the exact angle where you can't tell which part is the tattoo and which part is the tip of the nipple because of who and all these people. But it's fun. It's fun. It has a lot of elements. I love Yakuza movies. I love girl boss movies, and I love samurai movies. And it's funny to see them combine all those and kind of do a parody slash homage to Lady Snowblood. So decades before there was an Orin Ishii parody homage, there was already a Japanese parody homage to Lady Snowblood. So, um, yeah, I've just always had a fondness for these movies. And I found out just a couple months ago, Discotech Media was putting them on Blu-ray, and I'm like, because I was looking at their anime stuff I wanted to get, and their tokusatsu, and I was like, what the hell? Because when they came out on DVD, they went off print fast. They were on Panic House, which was a subsidiary of one of the other cult labels. I can't remember. So Panic House went under, and their whole catalog went out of print. They had tons of these Pinky Roman movies. These two ones in particular had these see-through plastic things. Uh, so they became rather valuable, and I sold both movies for about $80 each. Now, since the Blu-rays, I was just in time. Now the Blu-rays come out, they're like $14 each. Brand, still
It's like
sealed.
playing the stock market selling these things.
Yeah, and I try to do that. I try to sell the out of print movies real quick before they go on Blu-ray. I'm not always successful. Um, so yeah, that's the deal. We're going to wrap up this amazing installment, which I'm sure has everybody like just clamoring to go to Amazon and look up Discotech Media and Sex and Fury and orders their whole family copies of these things. So I don't know if it's on streaming, but I will tell you this. I have no doubt it will be on Tubi within the next few months. Just no doubt. Justin has an announcement though before we leave you.
And thank you again for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe and leave a comment if you're so inclined, whether you like or dislike what we've said. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon. Take care.
And it's true that we cannot see that far behind. If we looked all the way in the past, we'd go blind. In the night, from the stars as they've all lived their lives, and the light that they gave as they burned and then died.